Welcome back, everybody, to the Prove Me Wrong podcast. Once again, Pete Lieb, Dale Baker. We are talking movies we love tonight. Part 2 of our Social Gatherings Are Dangerous movie review discussion. We talked about The Invitation already. We talked about Ready or Not already. Those were the first two recommendations that we had. We also have The Lodge from 2019 and The Hunt from 2019 that we're going to continue to talk about now. So again, just to recap, The Invitation, Dale called The Invitation a 5 out of 5 Diamond Dale scale. He thought that was a perfect movie, and that, you know, that is completely fine. It was absolutely, it was a very good movie. I gave it a 3.75. It is we both recommend it to friends and enemies.
That's true.
Watch it and you will enjoy it. It's a psychological thing. It's a slow burn psychological thriller. And Ready or Not, we both went, again, 3.75 on that. It was a different type of movie. It was a, what do they call that?
Comedy.
Dark comedy.
Comedy?
Dark comedy, yeah. Dark comedy. Again, something we both recommend. It's a fun movie. If you just want to have fun for an hour and a half and laugh and get a nice payoff and some good action scenes and good performances, that's something we recommend.
Super fun.
Our third movie then, part 2 of our review. Dale recommended The Lodge. It's a movie from 2019. Soon-to-be stepmom is snowed in with her fiancé's 2 children at a remote holiday lodge. Just as relations begin to thaw between the trio, some strange and frightening events take place. It stars Riley Keough, and I don't know if you knew that Riley Keough is actually Lisa Marie Presley's daughter.
I did not know that.
She is. Riley Keough is Lisa Marie Presley's daughter.
That's cool.
Yeah. And also Richard Armitage is in that, and briefly, he plays the father. He's a face you would know. I'm just trying to give you names of people that you might know. But it's a very small cast. There's also a very brief, almost a cameo from Alicia Silverstone.
Wow.
So you definitely know her. And so Dale recommended this. So Dale, I'm going to give you the honor and set that one up for us.
Well, when we were talking about social gatherings, we were talking about this, different movies that sort of connected with this thing and the topic. And I said, we were talking about The Invitation, and I had recently seen this movie called The Lodge, and I thought, wow, this is like, it had a lot of elements of that where you don't know what's going on. You don't know if you should trust which character. You don't know if you're seeing the same thing that you think you're seeing, and the way that, the movement of the characters and the storyline. And it felt like a fun movie to recommend. And certainly, Alicia Silverstone's 6.5 minutes into this movie sets the tone for the rest of the movie, where, and we're going to spoil.
Spoilers all over the place, folks. If you haven't seen the movies, these 2 movies, stop the video now. Go ahead and watch them. I think that we would recommend them both. We'll just start there. We'll recommend them both to you. Neither one of those 2 movies we would say don't watch. Recommend them both. You go ahead and watch them, and then you can come back and get our in-depth analysis of each and every step and word, and determine whether or not you agree with us.
Right. So, 6.5 minutes in, Pete, why don't you just describe what happens after this gal comes home from finding out from her husband that he wants to make it official. He wants the divorce. And his girlfriend is there with them, and she goes home. She's tidying up the books and sits down with a glass of wine. And what happens?
Yeah, it's an incredibly unnerving scene. It's so out of the blue. So you're right. So the setup is it starts with Alicia Silverstone's character and her children, and they are going to visit their father, and they have been separated. Alicia Silverstone and the father are separated. They go to the house. He's there. She starts talking. he says he wants to make that divorce official, so they get the understanding right away. They're having marital troubles. He says that he wants to marry his new girlfriend. So yeah, she goes, oh, okay. And then she just turns and she walks out. And then they cut to her being at home. She's tidying up the house. She sits down at her kitchen table. And I'll just recount what I was actually saying while I was watching that point, because it's 6 minutes in. And I'm looking at the scene, and I'm looking at the, some of the appliances in the background of the scene. I'm like, this seems like it's weird on the time frame here, because that radio seems odd. And why is she sitting down to drink wine at a table? Why isn't she at least sitting down at her couch? And then, holy shit, she pulls out a gun and shoots herself in the head. And
crazy.
She pulls out a gun and just shoots herself. And it's so abrupt and so
there's no music,
unexpected.
there's nothing. There's no lead in, there's nothing. It's just like, whoa. And that sets the tone for the rest of the movie.
It's super real life. I mean, I guess that's what there wouldn't be some harpsichords, playing in the background.
Right.
When you're about to kill yourself. In reality, you're just sitting at a table, you pull a gun out of your pocket and bang, and that was it. And she was gone, and it was so quick and abrupt. And so you just think it's, well, I mean, obviously it was because she felt like this woman was responsible for the breakup of her marriage. And she has absolutely given that feeling to the children. So the boy, I believe, is like 17. I think his name is Aiden in the movie. He's like 17. The daughter is supposed to be 12. I think that's what their ages are supposed to be.
I think the son was a little younger, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I was just reading online.
I don't know.
They never really said how old he was.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of reading up on it online.
Okay.
Somebody had said that he was supposed to be around 17, 16, 17, whatever. He was.
He knew how to drive a car.
He was a teenager. Yeah, he was a teenager. And so they obviously are harboring a lot of bad feelings towards the girlfriend. And then the father says, I'd like us all to go up to the lodge for Christmas. And, to give you an opportunity, the two of you an opportunity to, it's been 6 months, by the way, 6 months since the mom has killed herself now. And he wants to take them up to the lodge and allow the girlfriend to make some inroads and, mend the relationship between them, or at least have some type of relationship with them. And it turns out, as weird as it sounds, that the mom has been telling these kids that the woman's a psychopath. Well, why do you want to be with that psychopath? And that seems like just a normal statement that any jilted wife would say to children about the new girlfriend. Right. It seems like people say that all the time, right? When they break up, oh, his new girlfriend's a psychopath. Turns out this girl really probably is a psychopath. She was the only surviving member of a suicide cult. And that then was immediately problematic to me, because this guy seems to me incredibly professional. He wrote a book, and she was in the book. And I guess that's how he must have met her, because she was in the book that he wrote. And she was a child when that happened. She's obviously not a child now. Right. But it seemed so, maybe it was just me. It's just my hang up. But she seemed obviously broken to me from the start. Mentally, she had a lot of issues. Yeah. And he seemed so put together, structured, put together, that it seemed like an odd pairing right off the bat. It seemed like an odd match that he would fall in love with her. And so I had a hard time believing that he fell in love with her, because again, she was definitely just broken. Her time in the cult had mentally strained her terribly. So I found that relationship unbelievable in a lot of ways.
I agree with that. In fact, I didn't understand it. So my mind instantly said, well, so is he the psychologist or something, and was the patient or something? Yeah. So it's definitely off. So the only reason something like that would happen is if he was going to use her for something, or if he was manipulating her, right? And so as the plot unfolded, I thought, well, there's no reason for him to be with her unless he was behind this or wanted her to do something crazy. sort of thing. So anyways, that was my take, and that didn't pay off, but that was the rabbit hole I went down during
I think he was supposed to actually just be in love with her and just want a relationship, but I I never saw anything in her that was lovable. Is that terrible to say?
No.
I never saw anything in her that was lovable. That would make that relationship. So again, there was one of those situations where they didn't really give you anything to tell you why. Why did his marriage? What broke his marriage up, and why was this woman so important to him to break up his marriage? I never got it. I never got that.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't get that either.
And coincidentally enough, her name is also Grace. The woman in Ready or Not's name was Grace, and her name is Grace as well. So I never understood why Grace, what it was about Grace that attracted him and said to him, okay, I'm going to leave my wife. And you and I are going to be together. Never got it. Yeah. So it's one of those things again where you just never got an understanding of how their relationship worked. So they get together and they go, and again, the kids blame her. They blame her completely for the mother killing herself. And so they go up to the lodge, and the father has to go back to work. So he leaves them there for, I don't know how long it was, maybe a week. Is that really all it was?
Supposed to be, I think it was just supposed to be like 3 days or 2 days.
It was not very long. It wasn't very long. And so they're there, and then these strange, weird things start happening. And right off the bat, she's having issues with religious iconography that are on the wall, and pictures of crosses or pictures of saints and then crosses on the wall. She's already getting weird about stuff like that. And again, it's just added to it. It's like, this woman, she's obviously got so many issues. She shouldn't even be in normal society right now. Maybe she should still be in some type of other place getting help. Because she's immediately just being weird, and she's hearing voices in her head, and then but as this is going on, initially the kids are very standoffish to her, and she's doing her best to try to mend fences. And maybe this is the great thing about it, because at the beginning of the movie, I didn't get her, I didn't like her, didn't understand her. By the end, I was sympathetic to her. I was completely sympathetic to her by the end, and I felt like the kids got what they fucking deserved by the end.
That's rad.
So that it was such a weird turn, because
it was rad.
Turns out, all these weird occurrences start happening over the time. So they're there, and the son makes her some cocoa. They're all cold, so they put a space heater in there. They're watching The Thing. They're watching a movie, The Thing on television. And then they fall asleep. She wakes up. She has a weird dream. She wakes up, and suddenly all of their clothes are gone from the house. All their personal effects are just missing. They're gone. The house doesn't have power suddenly. The house doesn't have water suddenly. All these weird things are occurring. She can't make heads or tails of what's happening. The dog
no electricity.
Is gone. No electricity. The dog is gone. Everything is gone. And then there are all these little clues. She starts finding clues. She starts finding pages where, like, an obituary with the two kids on the obituary page, and then a picture frame out in the snow that has the two kids in memorial. And then this boy said, and then she's like sleepwalking, or she thinks she's sleepwalking. She walks into the room. You can't tell if she's sleepwalking or not. She walks into the room, and she sees the boy on the bed, and he's in the same position that the cult was when they all committed suicide. And so she pulls the curtain, the sheet off of his face, and his face is in the same position that the cult did. And she snaps, and she's like standing there, mentally, she just disconnected. And then it turns out the boy's like, we died. We're dead. We're in limbo right now. We're already dead. We can't be killed. We're already dead. And then she's like, what? And he starts working on her. Well, it turns out he's lying the whole time to her. He's set up all these things to try to break her. To the point where he had even rigged up something that he was hanging from the ceiling, and she sees him hanging, and then he looks up down at her, and he's like, see, we're already dead. We can't be killed. And just weird, trying to break her, and he succeeded. He succeeded, and it flips. The movie flips so quickly because initially I had I had sympathy for the kids. I felt for the kids. This woman was bad. She broke up this marriage. She caused the mom to commit suicide. She was obviously shattered emotionally, mentally from her past. Didn't get the relationship with her husband, with the man. And then by the end of the time, when the guy finally gets to make it back to the house, I completely sympathize with her, and it's like, what the F are these kids doing? That they ended up they ended up trying to, I don't know what their goal was. What was the goal of what you were doing? Were you hoping that she would kill herself? That you would drive her to kill herself? Is that what you were hoping would happen? Because it didn't happen. That didn't happen. And then it ended up, she reverted back, and I don't know what she did to them, but I'm assuming she killed them. I'm assuming that it didn't end.
For sure.
It ended before their ultimate fate. But my at least what I thought is she kills them. And I felt like they deserved it by the end of it.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you, Pete. And I think number one, the thing that I think you may have glossed over was obviously she's got mental problems, but she was also hiding her pill or medication from her boyfriend, or the father of the kids. So maybe he didn't understand the depth of her problems and traumas. I mean, I think he must have known that she was from a cult and all this other stuff.
She absolutely, he did. She was in his book. He wrote a book about the cult, and it was when she was a child. And so that's what the kids were looking up. They went in and looked up on his computer, and they found her file.
That's right. Yes,
so
thank you.
He absolutely knew it, which again made me think, one, are you a psychiatrist? Like you said, are you a psychiatrist and she's your patient? And that's not cool. You know, I don't like that. You know, so there were so many reasons why I didn't like their relationship to start. You know, because if you're a psychiatrist, you are in such a position of power there that you'd be abusing, right? You're abusing that position of power.
Taking advantage, right?
That's right. But she absolutely had mental issues. She was on medication for it. And that's the other problem. They took her medication away. So,
yes. Yes. That's right. That was the thing.
So all now of her clothes were gone. Right. All of her clothes were gone and her medication's gone.
Oof. And there's no food. Or they left enough food, like a can of beans or something. Right. Whatever. So, okay. So we knew it was pretty crazy what they were doing. And obviously they didn't realize, it was the son's doing, and then later on the daughters or the sister says, oh man, we were just messing around and we took it too far and all this other stuff. But at that point it's too late. She's already broken. She's already doing some crazy stuff. Okay. So Pete, let me ask you this. At what point, during this stuff before they revealed it was the kids that were doing this, did you believe that it was supernatural? Did you believe anything like I was feeling, well, the father's behind all this, because there's no other reason for a psychologist to date a patient and what were you thinking?
I never felt like the father was behind it. They did give just enough again, just little hints here and there, like when she walked up into the upstairs when they first got there and like the door swung open by itself. They gave she kind of looked at it and then she closed the door and then it swung back open. Just little hints that maybe something paranormal is going on here, maybe something weird is happening. And then I actually thought initially when he said, they set that up pretty nicely, where he said, we're actually dead. We are in purgatory. We cannot get out. We can't die. I actually thought for a second, that's actually pretty interesting. It's kind of like The Others, the movie The Others with Nicole Kidman, that they didn't realize that they were dead, and they were finding clues that they actually were dead in the room. I thought that was kind of neat. And then it's like, actually, I'm just messing with her. I'm just messing with her to the point where, to see what's going to happen. So I never thought it was the father. He was fairly useless in the movie. I mean, there was no reason for him there other than to put them all together in a building. That's his only purpose in the movie. He put them together in the building. Alicia Silverstone was more impactful on the movie, and she was only in it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, she at least set up the reason for these kids to be this way to that woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, to me, by the end of it, it was really just be careful what you ask for, kid. You might get it.
Right.
You know.
Okay. And real quick, I want to say, okay, so getting to the you're right. What were the kids expecting to do? I don't know. They're kids. I don't think they knew what they were hoping she would just get freaked out and run off, and then they'd never see her again. I don't know if they had any expectations. I mean, look, at 17 or 16, wherever this kid was, did you have any expectations that you could even come up with a plan like that? Who knows? Well, Pete,
no,
let's face it, you're advanced.
I've never been that devious where I thought I'm going to systematically break somebody down mentally. That takes a lot of pain. That kid had a lot of pain to be doing that and to follow through on that. And I get it. His mom killed herself. I get it. I get where his pain came from. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what his ultimate goal was. If his ultimate goal was for her just to wander out into the snow and freeze to death and die. But once they let her dog out and the poor dog froze to death, then I no longer
it's over. And
then I realized that they did it on purpose. I no longer have sympathy for you kids.
It's over. No sympathy at all.
That's right.
It's cut off. Okay. So, I mean, like I said, I felt like there was a lot of elements of the invitation to this where you didn't know exactly, is this supernatural? What's going on? And I love that part of it. And then, when the father does come back to the house, I was thinking, okay, this is more like The Shining, where, you know, Grady finally comes to rescue the kids. And what happens to Grady when he comes not in the book, but of course in the movie, the original movie, what happens to Grady when he comes to rescue the kids? As soon as he walks in the door,
he gets an axe.
He gets an axe, right? And so that's sort of a similar situation. What happened to the father, right? I mean, how long did he last after walking through that door?
Oh, maybe a minute and a half.
Exactly.
A minute and a half. She was already well on her way to crazy at that point. You know, at that point they had convinced her that they were already dead. This is a figment of her imagination. She puts the gun to her head and pulls the trigger. I'm like, oh, I thought it was going to end there, honestly. And then it didn't. And then nothing happened there. And then she pointed at him and did end up shooting him. Yeah. And then, you know, dragging him to the table, and they're all sitting at the table together, and this guy's head's blown off, you know. That was a pretty disturbing scene at the end. She was fully gone at that point. You have accomplished your mission. She was fully gone. But again, it did not work out for you. And then the kids tried to, then they realized, oh shit, you know, we might have gone too far. And then they try to escape, and they can't drive the damn. He gets the car stuck in the snowdrift. He can't drive. So then at that point, it's like, no, you don't get a payoff for this. You don't get away with this. You set this up. You are going to eat the fruit that came off of that tree. Yeah. So that was, to me, again, I felt by the end, I felt bad for Grace. I felt like the kids got what they deserved. So if you like those kind of movies, where again, it definitely had some suspense. There was about a 30-40 minute window there where it was very suspenseful. You weren't sure what was happening. It had a pretty good premise of, you know, where it was going to what was happening. So I mean, I would recommend it. I think that out of the four, it's probably was my least favorite of the four.
Agreed. I would agree with that as well.
I think that there were flaws in this one that the other three did not have. One, just believability. I didn't believe it from the start. I did not believe why they were even there, there together. Right off the bat.
Those set of circumstances. That was just like, it's a big stretch.
In what world would that guy leave his kids with a woman who is so mentally damaged for days, in the woods, in the winter, in the snow?
Unless he wanted them dead.
What responsible father would do that? And I can't think of one. So the setup to me was implausible, to say the least. It was not realistic. And then on top of that, you got Lex Luthor as a 16-year-old child. This kid is a criminal mastermind. Somehow putting this plan in place that how do you even think about that? And they really didn't give you any indication that he was even thinking about it. They did a real quick flash when he was packing his stuff. When he was packing his stuff before he went. So you saw him like pack the picture frame, but you didn't see what was in the picture frame. So you saw him packing some weird things. You did. They give you a little indication that he had some nefarious plans. But but just like when did you think of all this? Because it was over Thanksgiving that he said, well, I think we want to go to the lodge. So he had maybe a week, 2 weeks to plan this out and then just, and carry it out. I mean, that's incredible.
Yes, it was incredible. It was outrageous. It has a lot of those elements. You definitely you have to overlook a lot of things when you're watching this one.
Yes.
However, like I said, and again, the reason, but you do drop your rating on this, and then I'll give you my. I think my
rating on this is a 3, a 3, because I felt like I didn't fall asleep. I did not feel like, oh my God, this is terrible. It was, as you say, the production was great. It was well produced. Yeah. The acting was fine. The acting was really good. I mean, the music was discordant just enough to make you uneasy. It had all the elements there, but it just had some flaws that the others didn't have in terms of, like I said, it just wasn't believable. Why are you even there? Why are you there to start? And then how does this boy carry this off? But ultimately, I was satisfied. I was satisfied at the end. I was. How bad is that? I was satisfied that those kids got what they deserved. They did.
Well, that's because that felt good. It felt bad to feel that good. How about that?
If you felt terrible for feeling that good because this woman is going to kill them. You know, she's going to kill them in a cult-like ritual. It's going to happen. You saw it happening before they faded out. She was on the way. She was putting, the sinner tape on their mouth, getting ready to end them. And she had every right. They sinned. They sinned terribly to her. And they just mentally broke her. So I think it's a 3. I think, and again, it's always a good indication when Christina watches a movie with me, because if she thinks it's bad, she'll fall asleep. And she mentioned this to you. She'll fall asleep and like, oh, this is terrible. Pete's watching another terrible movie. I'm going to go to sleep. She did not go to sleep for either one of these movies. She watched them all the way through. So
huge.
That is a huge statement. That is a huge statement. She feels like they were not terrible. What do you think? What were your thoughts? Am I being too hard?
No.
Or am I being just right?
You were on the money. Frankly, it was my pick, but still, it's not one of my top pictures that I'd recommend. But it was my pick for this because it fit most of the criteria we were talking about. But let me just say this: I'm going to say I would give it a 3.2. I mean, I'm not going to go overboard on this, but I got to say I was thoroughly entertained. I love not knowing. I think we're so used to knowing what's going to happen or figuring out a movie. And so when you don't know what's going to happen, it's like exciting. It's like, or if it doesn't go the way you want it to go, that's, and you're either disappointed or you feel something, but it's just great to be surprised anymore when you're watching a movie. To me, that's been a big thing recently. So
totally understand. I agree 100%. Like I said, I definitely think it's something that if you have an hour and a half, you won't be disappointed that you spent an hour and a half watching it. You'll definitely be entertained. And if you are somebody who is still living under a house arrest, quote, quarantine, go ahead. Why not? You have some time.
Do it.
So, okay. Now we've done the invitation. We've done the lodge. We've done Ready or Not. We now have The Hunt. It's from 2019. I suggested this movie because it had a lot of publicity. It was supposed to be released actually in 2000, actually I think it was 2000. No, it was supposed to be 2019 in September, and they delayed it, and they actually released it in March of 2020, I believe, because there was a lot of pushback and a lot of feedback about the subject matter of the movie. And you actually, when I recommended it to you, you actually kind of gave it to me as well, because you read the same thing. There was a lot of political heat about the movie. And the setup of the movie is what you heard was, and that's what actually drew me to it, because I wanted to watch it. I wanted to see how this played out. I was hearing all this information on the news that there's this movie where liberal Democrats are collecting up deplorables and killing them. And, so Democrats are rounding up Republicans and killing them and hunting them. And there was getting all kinds of political heat about it. So I was like, I want to see what this is about, because it was enough that they delayed it and they brought it out later. And so when I watched it, I did not find that was the case. I found that was definitely overblown. It is not. There is not a political aspect to it. It is a have and have not aspect to it. There
social
is,
commentary,
it
not
is
political, right?
Yeah, it is about money and power, not about political party. Although, well, maybe I should give you the setup first. The setup is there are these wealthy elites, and they have the very opening scene. They have a text exchange where they're all just kind of talking. They're all just friends, and they're just talking about what the rat fucker in chief did. That was one of the terms of them. So they're obviously making fun of the president. What do you know what he did today? And you know what he said? And then they're all like, yeah, frowny face, day equals ruined. And then one of them makes a joke and says, well, good thing the manor's coming up and we can hunt some deplorables. And then they kind of like, I'm checking off this thread. I'm deleting this thread. And then turns out all of those people get fired. And then you kind of cut to a plane ride, and then suddenly there are these individuals that are on a plane and then eventually waking up in a field, and you don't know their stories initially. You don't know why they're there. It's just a collection of people in a field, and they've got gags in their mouths, and they wake up and they've been drugged, and they kind of start moving into the center of this field, and there's this big cornucopia. It's almost like if you've seen the Hunger Games. When the Hunger Games start, right when the gun goes off, there's the cornucopia with all the weapons in the middle, and you either can run for the cornucopia and risk certain death, or you can take off the other way into the woods and live a little longer. Well, it's a very similar setup. These people wake up, they look out, and there's this box in the middle of the field, and they don't know what it is. So they all start going to it, and somebody opens it, and there are weapons inside the box. And then they're like, and then suddenly they are being hunted. People start dying. And so then it revolves around this hunt. And it does turn out that this group of wealthy elite people, as a result of them being outed for this text message exchange and being fired and kind of having their lives ruined, they went out and found people who had reposted that text online or talked about it on their podcast or things like that. They found those people, they drugged those people, they flew those people to Europe, dropped them off in a field, and then hunted them to try to kind of pay them back for ruining their rich elite lives. And so that's the setup of it. And then the thing I loved about it, right off the bat, and it had some, and I'll even read it. It stars Betty Gilpin is the main character. Her name was Crystal in the movie. Hilary Swank is in this movie. Emma Roberts is in this movie. There are a lot of people whose faces There are a lot of well-known actors. There's one of the guys from Always Sunny in Philadelphia is one of the elites in the movie. He plays a great snob elite. He's so good at it.
He's so good at that.
He's so good.
He's so funny too. It's just amazing.
But the synopsis of the movie is 12 strangers wake up in a clearing. They don't know where they are or how they got there. In the shadow of a dark internet conspiracy theory, ruthless elitists gather at a remote location to hunt humans for sport. But their master plan is about to be derailed when one of the hunted, Crystal, turns the tables on her pursuers. And, yes. So I don't even know how to start. I mean, I think I want to start with it by the movie itself pushed along brilliantly in my mind, because for the first 15 minutes you were completely off balance. They open with Emma Roberts, who was arguably the biggest star in the movie. I mean, she's maybe except for Hilary Swank, but Emma Roberts is right now probably the most recognizable face in that movie, right? And so they focus on her for the first 3 or 4 minutes. 5 minutes, you think, okay, she's the main character of the movie. We're going to revolve around her, that's the normal way a movie works.
That's the setup.
3 minutes in, 3 minutes in, Emma Roberts' head gets blown off. She's literally the first fatality.
Right.
So it's like, and so again, just with Alicia Silverstone, it's so abrupt and so fast. You're like, oh shit.
It's shocking. Yeah.
The main
it's shocking.
character of the movie up to that point is now dead.
Yeah. And don't forget, there's this moment that she's having a love connection with a gentleman.
Yes.
So you're like, okay, I figured out, there's only an hour and a half.
These two are going to pair up. These two are going to go off. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. When the shooting starts, there are literally 2 shots, and one of them hits her in the head, and she's gone. And the guy who she just has this love connection, he's sitting there, he's like, oh shit, he's covering her blood, and now he's the lead. And so now for the next 4 or 5 minutes, it's following him and what he's doing, trying to, and one of the deplorables runs and falls into a pit, and he helps her up, and then he's helping her walk, and then suddenly he steps on a landmine, and he looks up, he's like, oh shit, and boom, he gets blown up. 2 leads now are gone. The 2 main characters now that are gone. And now it's suddenly, there's a third guy who just runs past the screen, and suddenly the camera starts following him. And now he's the lead in the movie.
Yeah.
And it kept doing this, and you were constantly thrown off because it gave you the impression that these people were the main characters, the main focus of the movie, and then they would just dispatch them, very unceremoniously, just gone. And then the third guy, they make it to a gas station, and him and these other 2 people are in the gas station. And, another familiar face, that guy, you've seen him on certain things. And then boom, he's gone. And so now we've gone through 3 main characters, 3, these are the leads of the movie. And you don't know what to think now. Now you don't know what the hell to think. And I was watching this with Lauren, and Lauren is watching this, and again, she knows Emma Roberts. She's 17, so she knows Emma Roberts. And so then she sees Emma go, and then she sees the Emma's love interests go, and then she sees the next guy go with his friends, and then here comes Crystal walking in, and so now they're following Crystal. Now Crystal's the main character of the movie.
Yeah.
And so you're just waiting. I'm waiting the whole time for Crystal to get it, to be gone. But it turns out Crystal knows some shit. Crystal has got her shit together. And and you get that right away, because as soon as Emma Roberts wakes up and sits up, and even though they're focusing on Emma Roberts, in the background you see Crystal, and Crystal's taking her name tag off from the that she was wearing when they abducted her, and she's peeling the metal piece off, and she's rubbing it in her hair, and she's making a compass, and she's putting the thing in the leaf in the water, and she's putting the magnetized piece of metal there, and it's making a compass, and it's telling her which way is north. And when everybody else went to the cornucopia, Crystal went the other way. Crystal was not a part of the killing field, so she was immediately ahead of the game, as it were, for those people. And but she wasn't. Again, you were focused on Emma. You just happened to see this woman in the background doing that. So when she gets in there, and the whole movie turned at that point. The whole movie turned, because up to that point it was just people being killed.
Right.
And she goes in there, and she's kind of discombobulated, and she's doesn't know where she's at, and she's like, where are we at? What state are we in? And they're like, excuse me? And she's like, do you not understand the question? What state are we in?
Oh my God.
That was so good.
Great. Yeah, that was great.
And then she bought the cigarettes, and then they gave her the change for the cigarettes. And then, just like with Will in The Invitation, she was a woman of action. She did not She trusted what she was feeling and what she was thinking at that moment. She had just woke up with a gag in her mouth. She was in the middle of a field. She's obviously, something is going on. She saw people being shot. She trusted her gut, and she acted immediately and just beat the shit out of those people, and shoots the one guy behind the desk, because these people were bad. They had just killed 3 other people. They were part of the elites. And she jumps over the counter, and she's got the shotgun, and the woman's like, no, and he's like, you fucked up, bitch. Because cigarettes are only $6 in Arkansas, and the whole reason she realized it was because they gave her the wrong change. They told her they were in Arkansas, but they charged her New York prices for the cigarettes, and she was clever enough to realize, wait a minute, if we're in, because she was from Mississippi, so Arkansas and Mississippi are right there, and one would assume that she had bought cigarettes in Arkansas. Right. So it was just that one moment. They gave me the wrong change, and then she trusted it. And it's like, oh, you people are bad. Yep. And just
that's it.
And just killed them.
Dispatched.
Both.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, Crystal was the lead, and
yes,
the movie moved from there. And man, it was it's an hour and a half, and it felt so fast. It was an hour and a half, and it felt so fast because you were so invested in the movie the whole time. And so it covers kind of what she did and some of the other people that she met, and then finally her working her way back to, she goes back to the killing field where the elitists are, and just brutally kills them all, and it turns out that she was, in Afghanistan. She was a soldier. She obviously was very well trained, had a lot of training, and goes and finds the main character, Hilary Swank's character, and then they have this awesome fight, and they're discussing it, but the whole thing came down to the fact that, and I don't know if you even caught it, because I watched it twice and I didn't catch it the first time. I watched it again last night and I caught it this time. She was the wrong Crystal. They actually got the wrong Crystal. And they were so close to having all of the things that they wanted to do go right. But they got the wrong Crystal, and that Crystal fucked it all up. She messed it up completely. And I must not have been paying attention the first time I saw it, because I know when they were talking about it, and she goes, well, I know who you are. And she started telling all this Crystal's backstory. And then she said, well, my dad he's an asshole, but he's alive. And my mom is alive too. They're not meth heads, whatever. And she goes, but you don't know if she's just trying to play with her, play with Hilary Swank's mind and lie to her. And then at the very end, she says, did I really get the wrong person? Aren't you, Justice for Y'all was her screen name. Aren't you Justice for Y'all? And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm not. You abducted the wrong person, but you fucked up because I came in here and just destroyed your whole thing. So that's the quick and dirty of how the movie goes. But the nuance of the movie, because again, there was a lot of political blowback from it, and a lot made of the portrayal of Democrats hunting Republicans. And I do not think that it was Democrats hunting Republicans, but it was every stereotype of the rich elite and the common everyday folk. It was they put out almost every stereotype that you can imagine. So every one of those 12 people was an American stereotype of some kind. Emma Roberts was the young evangelical Christian. Like there's a woman called Tommy Lauren who's a young blonde, very pretty girl who does conservative talk. That was her character. And then they had the woman from Wyoming with basically the mullet, because she's a wild woman. Then they had the dude from Orlando who obviously listens to too much rap. They had all these stereotypes. The guy from New York, the one who got it in the gas station, he had that typical New York attitude. So, but then the people, the elites, oh my God, there was a scene with them having a conversation, and it was so awkward and off-putting because, again, they couldn't offend each other. They couldn't say anything that somebody in that group of 6 people wasn't offended by. And so then every time that one person would say something, somebody else would correct that person, and then somebody else would correct that person, and somebody else would correct that person, because you couldn't say, hey, you guys, because the one woman in the place, like, guys, really? I'm a woman. And you couldn't take anything. Everything was taking literally. It was so tedious. And that is every stereotype of it is every stereotype of just kind of how society is now. Everybody is so sensitive. Everybody's so easily offended. You can't say anything without somebody in that group being offended.
Yes.
And they played that stereotype up beautifully. And so, I mean, so to me, the nuance of it was just great. I mean, I've been talking now for 10 minutes. What are your thoughts?
But Pete, I loved it too, man. You hit it on the head again. And frankly, like I was the same way, where I was like, oh man, I don't want to see anybody dogging this political thing.
Right.
And then I was just like, I don't know. So when you picked it, I was like, all right, let me watch this. And right away it was like, oh, they're making fun of both sides. I mean, and they could have swapped either one of those out. Like you could have swapped, Republican, but look, because like what you're saying is it's a socioeconomic thing, not a political thing. So it's really more of a commentary on both sides. And I thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed it, and I felt like the payoff was great, and it was a fun ride. And frankly, it was just once again being surprised by how well something was done and how funny it is and how entertaining it is. It's like, shit, that's why you go to a movie in the first place. So that's what you want out of a movie, all these things, surprise, excitement, be taken away, and this accomplishes all those things. I mean, I still have questions about it. Like, for example, do you think Dawn was a double agent?
I do not. I just think that at that point she couldn't take chances. She could not take any more chances. She didn't believe anybody. She mentioned it when she ran that dude over, and he's like, well, how did you know he was lying? And she's like, because everybody's lying. Everybody that we're talking to is lying. So I just thought that she got to the point where it was the point of no return. She, if he's not putting his gun down, I'm going to have to shoot him. And I think that Don could have put his gun down. And that's what Lauren and I had said. Lauren's like, if you're not guilty, Don, put your gun down. That's the easiest thing. But I do think Athena was her name, was the bad girl's name. Athena wanted to sow that discontent because she didn't want 2 of them coming looking for her. She wanted one of them to look for her, and she figured she had a better chance with the woman than the man. And but she was wrong about that, because that woman was an ass kicker. But so I just think she sowed enough discontent there to Don, and poor Don was the recipient. But I agree with you. I think that they could have flip-flopped it completely. They absolutely could have. But it is the worst stereotypes. They were complete stereotypes. Every one of those characters was a stereotype, and just completely off the wall. So it was fun and interesting in that way, because it went, like I said, every conversation they had was just ridiculously painful. It was a painful conversation. It's like, I couldn't sit with you people. I can't sit with you people and have a conversation and say you guys, and then have the woman over there correct me because I said you guys. And
it's got to be so daunting, that it's got to be so daunting
that you have to walk.
Oh,
and you have to always pat yourself on your back for all the incredible environmental things that you're doing, or the humanitarian efforts that you're making. You constantly have to have that gratification and putting that out there and saying, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm great, love me, I have this. It's just so tiring. And then the great thing was the mindset of these people, because they just thought that they could just go and do this and there'd be no repercussions. But they had no idea what they were doing. They didn't know how to fire the weapons. They didn't even know how to pull the damn pin from the grenade. That just speaks to, again, the elite class who thinks that they're just eminently smarter and better, and they're the jackrabbit in the story, right? They're the jackrabbit.
Right.
They never lose.
Yeah.
I can't lose. Yeah. I don't lose. And they're fighting these people who are they think are beneath them, and they're stupid,
Yeah.
and they're rednecks and hillbillies,
Mhm.
and but those people have skills and they know things.
Mhm.
They know things that you don't know. They know things that you don't expect them to know. And the worst thing you can do is be overconfident and dismiss the abilities of your adversary. And that's really what they did. They completely dismissed that Crystal or any of them would give them any kind of resistance.
Mhm.
So, but that's just their mindset. We have money, we have power, so you are beneath us. You pose no threat. And they were wrong. Real world, the Crystal came in there with real world power, and it was just glorious. I mean, it was the whole, like I said, it was just glorious. It was. If you don't like gore, there were some gory ass scenes. It was gory. It was violent.
Awesome.
But again, it was done in a way that you ended up laughing. In a lot of these scenes, you were laughing when it happened.
Oh. It's so surprising. Some of them were so surprising. It's like that's your immediate reaction is like it's shock, and then you like it's like when you're laughing just to kind of let it off. That was a really it was so well done the way that they did some of those, like the girl in the pit with the spike.
Yes.
And there's like everything about that was
I'm
great.
Gonna eat it's my birthday tomorrow, and I'm gonna eat a whole pie. Meanwhile, she's impaled. She's not gonna survive. But she hasn't even considered that. It's no. I again, it's an hour and a half, and it moves fast, and it's entertaining. And again, it's a violent action movie, but it does definitely has an undercurrent of social commentary to it, but it is definitely not, in my opinion, was not political. If you were not seeing it because you were worried about there being some, Democrat, Republican, whatever nonsense going on, I didn't find that there. I did find rich versus not rich. I did find that. I did find the elitist versus the non, but those elite are across political parties. I mean, that's the 10 percenters versus the rest of us. So
10,
5 percenters. I don't know, 1%.
Yeah, something like that. But and the only other thing I was going to say was that the whole movie, for me was so cool because, I mean, Pete, think about this, like, even if there was political things, and even if that it wasn't the focus, but it was sort of the backdrop of the thing, right? To sort of explain why they were doing this or something like that. But like, when's the last time you saw a movie that could poke fun at anything?
Yeah.
Culture or what's happening in right now, and that used to be like the norm. But it's like now you can't even do that, and now this movie's risque. Like, really? That's the new risque. Like, wow, it was, and it almost kept me away from seeing it. So it was like,
exactly,
that's shocking. That's amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it highlighted, one, the stereotypes, and two, the weaknesses of every one of those people. What their weaknesses were. What the weakness of the conspiracy theorist was, what the weakness of the Christian evangelical was, what the weakness of those elitists that were sitting in their bunker thinking they didn't have a care were. It played to all of their stereotypes, and then it exposed all their weaknesses, and it made fun of them all. It really did. It made fun of all of them, pretty equally.
Everybody.
It did make
that was
fun
an equal opportunist.
Yeah, it did make fun of the redneck, for sure. It did make fun of the urban Orlando dude with the damn Florida tattoo on his eye.
Yeah, perfect. That was perfect.
I mean, it made fun of everybody. Every one of those people got their share.
Yeah, for sure.
So you were definitely, if you're going there just expecting to see one side beat the other side, you're wrong. And it didn't happen that way. And ultimately, if they were trying to make this a Democrat versus Republican, ultimately the Republican won. If you look at it that way, because if you're really trying to make this a liberal versus conservative, the last person standing getting on the plane was Crystal. So everybody else was gone. But technically, we don't know. But technically, since she wasn't the correct Crystal, we wouldn't know what her
political affiliation was.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So theoretically, libertarians won, or
That's right.
whatever.
That's right. Whatever
Insert
she is.
anything you want. So you're right. That was another smart thing about this movie. And people, there was two things that I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Number one, is there any chance, and if there is a chance, what percentage in your mind was it that when they were writing that original text that they weren't kidding, and that they did have a manor in Vermont that they were doing some kind of shenanigans, and there was it Manorgate or something like that? That was a real thing. I mean, so is there any chance that was something that they were doing beforehand?
Could have been. I mean, it seemed pretty easy for them to put it all together later.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it seemed pretty easy for them to do all the logistics. It's a lot of logistics to abduct 12 people, put them on a plane, fly the plane to Bosnia, and you have a gas station built just to kill people in. You have this manor house. You have all of this open field here where this kill box is. They went through a lot of effort. And pulled it off. They pulled it all off. So it doesn't strain credibility to think maybe they had been doing it before and that was real. Right. That was a real text. And what are you going to do when your boss sees your text like that? You're going to lie about it. Like, oh, that was just a joke. I didn't really mean that. Well, what do you expect me to say? You expect me to say, I kill people? No, you don't expect that. So it definitely could have been. They could have been doing this.
I like that open interpretation of it, because it's like, if you think about that in terms of like, this is something that they could be doing on a regular basis. Or, I mean, look, let's face it. If this was the first time they killed people, they seemed to be, they weren't proficient at it clearly, but they were able to do this without, second guessing themselves or whatever. And by the way, the whole bunker scene was fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, just because it was so great to see her kick ass, and the way that it went down, and the political correctness of that gal.
Yes.
It was like, do you want me to show you mercy because you're a female and something like that?
Because Don did not want her to shoot her because you can't do that. She's a woman. And she looks at her and goes, "Do you want different treatment because you're a woman?" And she's literally got an arrow stuck in her right now. And she's like, "No." And then so then Crystal shoots her. That's super funny.
I could have, and I mean, I'll have to watch it again, but I could have sworn that Don lost his accent when they were going back and forth with right before she shot him. So I could have sworn, but again, I need to watch it again.
But you never saw him ever, because they did that flashback scene. They did the flashback scene to a year prior when they were all picking who they were going to take, and all the people that were in the room you saw later. You saw them all later, and Crystal was interacting with them all, but you didn't see Don there.
Well, you didn't know. Okay. And I don't recall. There's two things. Number one, I don't recall when she walked into the manor, when Crystal walks into the manor and she sees all the people on the wall, right? All the pictures. I don't recall seeing a picture of Don there, but that I could have missed it, and that's okay.
Maybe.
The other thing is, if you go back to the original thing, when they had the flashback and they're talking about the people that they're going to kill, the guy that was running the PowerPoint, I don't recall seeing him again. Was he?
He was the embassy guy. He just shaved. He shaved his beard off.
Oh my God! So he was the guy from the embassy.
Yeah.
And as soon as he's because I was thinking, how do we know this guy isn't a bad guy or part of the elite? And then of course, as soon as he says, "Well, I mean, you guys are the real victims here," and then as soon as I caught that one, and as soon as if I caught it, Crystal caught it, and that was it, man.
That was great, wasn't it? When you could tell she was putting it together in her brain, and she grabs the handle, and then she suddenly lifts her feet up all weird, and then kind of just tilts her feet and just kicks him out of the damn car.
Yeah.
That was so. There's so many just funny scenes.
It was so funny. It was so much fun.
So enjoyable. It was such.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you got to blow some steam too, because finally it's like we can laugh at this, again. Can't see that stuff anymore. So.
Yeah, you are not allowed to laugh at any of the things that you found yourself laughing at in that movie. Because again, every person was a stereotype. Every person was getting made fun of. Every person was the absolute farthest reach of what that type. Because nobody is that way. Nobody is
Right.
100% that way. No one.
Right.
Even though they want to push that. They want to push that, that's in our society right now. But nobody is really that way. And that's actually what was so good about, again, the guy from, I can't remember his name, the guy from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, because he was kind of real. He was saying shit that they kept all correcting him. He was having a normal conversation and everybody kept correcting him because, he's part of them, but come on. Right. He's not buying into that. I need to be apologetic for everything. So it was pretty funny. So it was good.
Yeah.
But
he was just there to party. Basically.
He was just there because he lost his job and he wanted to party. Absolutely.
Yeah. For sure.
So, again, I highly, highly recommend that. If you were not seeing that because of the political aspect that you had heard about last year, have no fear. Have no fear.
No fear.
Never once is there any type of political ideology or affiliation disclosed at all. It is really
that should be taken seriously.
Yeah, it is just, I'm rich, you're not, I can do what I want, and you can't stop me until they can. So ultimately, very fulfilling at the end. It
was a lot of fun.
So Dale, I'm going to let you give you the last honor of the night and let you go first on the Diamond Dale scale.
Diamond Dale scale is going to give The Hunt a 3.72.
So 3.72. So that means you liked Ready or Not more than The Hunt.
Ready or Not, I gave a 3.
I thought you gave it a 3.75. I thought you and I both went 3.75.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh man,
you got to amend it now.
I do need to amend it now. You're right. Okay, so I'm going to go a 3.97.
3.97.
That's what I need.
Okay.
3.97.
Yes. Which is a good score. I am going to go. I'm probably going to go again for what it is. Because it's a very straightforward movie. It's just a fun, gory action flick, comedy, another dark comedy if you want. I'm going to say a 4 out of 5. A 4 on that.
That's fair.
It is ultimately satisfying, very fun. I honestly, when it was over, I wish there was more. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, those are good movies when they go quickly, and when they're over, you're like, man, I wish I could have seen some more. I wish they could have made it last a little longer and fleshed out a little bit more of those other characters. Because there were several other characters that were dispatched pretty quickly. And, it would have been even more fun if we could have dived into them a little bit. Maybe done that whole thing with the lead character one or two more times before they got to Crystal. That might have been pretty. Maybe they could have gone with. I think his name was Dale, wasn't it, or Don, or what was that guy's the conspiracy theorist? I can't remember what his name was.
I think it was Dale. I'm pretty sure it was Dale.
So, have Dale a little bit longer doing his conspiracy thing until he gets it, and then bring Crystal in. But either way, like I said, I was thoroughly entertained by it. So, okay. So those are our 4 movies. We recommend them both. This was obviously part 2 of the podcast. We had to break it into 2. We talked for quite a while. First 2 movies were The Invitation and Ready or Not. We both Dale called The Invitation a 5.0. I think I went
perfect movie.
3.75. I think.
Yes.
Again, I think it's very, very good. We both enjoyed Ready or Not. We both gave Ready or Not a 3.75 star out of 5. Very entertaining.
Yes.
And then the first of our reviews on this episode, The Lodge. Dale, you said 3.2 something, right? 3.2? Something like that? I know I said 3 stars. So.
Yeah. I think it was like 3.25 or something. Something along those lines.
3.25.
So, I mean, yeah.
And I said 3. And then you went 3.97, and I went 4 stars for The Hunt. Bottom line, folks, anything 3 stars or above for me is a recommendation. I am recommending it. Anything 3 or above. Actually, anything really 2.5 or above. If it's 2.5,
2.5 is average, right?
Yeah,
it's
an average movie.
Right.
So I definitely think they are all more than average movies. and some of them are really fabulous. A couple of them are just really fabulous movies.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So
we had some good ones this time.
Absolutely. So I will open it up and say, what do you all think out there? Do you feel? Have you seen these movies? Do you feel the same way we do? Do you think that we're off base? It happens. You know, sometimes people agree with us. Sometimes they don't agree with us. But it's fun for us to talk movies. Dale and I love to talk movies or television shows or music, whatever. We're
whatever.
Eclectic people. We are men of a lot of different
Renaissance men.
That's exactly right.
We like to just talk to each other also, so that's sort of a thing.
But if anybody out there has any opinions on those movies, or you want to suggest other movies that are similar to these that you would like for us to watch, and you know, we'll talk about them in another podcast.
That's a good one.
Yeah, send those in. You can send those into our email address. It's provemewrongcast@gmail.com. You could also just drop us a message in our Prove Me Wrong Facebook page or on the Prove Me Wrong Instagram page. Either one of those. Let us know a movie that you think is a fabulous movie, either something similar to this or just something else you like. And we'll take a look at it, and we'll talk about it in a future podcast. If you're just looking for more ways to listen to the podcast, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Tunein Radio, really any platform that you listen to podcasts. You can find the Prove Me Wrong podcast. Like and subscribe to the podcast, and you will be notified when a new episode comes out. You won't have to wait. You won't have to search for it. It'll tell you that it's there. We're also that's right. We're also on YouTube. You can see the scroll right here. It says subscribe to the Prove Me Wrong podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Once again, you'll be notified when a new episode comes out. We tend to release a new episode every week. Like and subscribe. You'll be the first one to know. Before I go tonight, I do want to say our episode tonight and our first episode, part 1, were brought to you by Javaremix. Javaremix is the perfect blend of 100% organic Arabica coffee infused with nano-emulsified CBD. You can start your day off on the right foot with a great tasting cup of coffee with all the demonstrated benefits of pure CBD. Javaremix offers traditional ground coffee as well as single-serve K-cups in both regular and decaf. If you aren't a coffee person, Javaremix also offers CBD-infused teas and even beauty products like bath bombs and body scrubs. As an added benefit for our Prove Me Wrong listeners, if you go online right now, that's javaremix.com, and enter the promo code Prove Me Wrong, you'll get an additional 20% discount off of your entire shopping experience. And Javaremix also offers free shipping on all orders over $40, so you have no reason not to give it a try. Once again, that's javaremix.com, promo code Prove Me Wrong. The Prove Me Wrong podcast is also brought to you tonight by ZendoZones citronella burners from JT Eaton. They're shaped like fearless little bug-repellent tiki gods, so you can let Surf and Stan, Hawaiian Howie, and Luau Lily bring the islands to your backyard with ZendoZones citronella burners. ZendoZones uses natural 3% citronella candles and incense cones, and they're perfect for patios, decks, backyards, campsites, poolside, and more. You can enjoy the outdoors again. They are available on Amazon.com and at select Ace Hardware stores. So go ahead and collect them all today. So once again, for my guest tonight, Dale Baker, Mr. Dale Baker.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for seeing me. It was great to see you, too.
That's right. It's good to see everybody here. Once again, I'm Pete Lieb. This is the Prove Me Wrong podcast, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.